afternoon. Hope you're all fine and well on this beautiful day. So today we're looking at stanza 2 of the Wilfred Owen poem Disabled. As always, to expand with the vocab, we're looking at war vocabulary this week. So today's word of the day is anarchy, which is a noun, and it's basically a state of disorder due to a lack of government or authority. For example, without the police, you would have anarchy and chaos. Today's spelling word, remember we've got a spelling bee coming up. All the words are on the Aim Higher Facebook page. The spelling word of the day is ricochet. I'm sure a lot of you know it from You Ricochet, I'll take you in. Anyway, enjoy the burst eardrums. Today's pun of the day is quite relevant to this stanza. The past, present and future were having an argument. It was tense. Alright, so we're looking at stanza 2, carrying on with our analysis. So if I just read it out first. About this time, town used to swing so gay, when glow lamps budded in the light blue trees, and girls glanced lovelier as the air grew dim. In the old times, before he threw away his knees, now he will never feel again how slim girls' waists are, or how warm their subtle hands. All of them touch him like some queer disease. Okay, so going through the questions that I've put on the resources page. If you have done the questions, just have a wee look over your answers. If you haven't, then obviously the questions and what I'm saying about the poem could just be used for making your own notes or annotating or analysing the poem yourself. So, the second stanza focuses on happier memories. How are feelings of warmth and happiness conveyed in this stanza? So whereas stanza 1 was very much dark and dismal and bleak, stanza 2 starts off quite positively. So he talks about town used to swing so gay, so obviously gay means happy and cheery. So there's a contrast here. Now he's talking about what it used to be. Alright, so the expression used to suggests that it's no longer. So this is a memory. He's thinking back to the previous years when he was physically able before war took away his limbs. So basically there's a contrast between current, so present, and his past life. So there's a juxtaposition, which means that there's a contrast side by side of the two things. Reference to swing links back to the boys playing outside, so it suggests a physical, lively movement, fun idea. Reference to his physicality and his energy. So obviously if you swing, then it's a lot of physical movements. So it's just basically to suggest that it was a happy, carefree time when he was able-bodied. It also adds warmth in this stanza because it talks about glow lamps budded and the air grew dim. So there's a contrast here between the darkness and grey of stanza 1, and here the light is glowing and it's dim, so that obviously could suggest that it's a soft warm light. Dim could be like a romantic meal, you know, when you dim the lights in a restaurant. So that links to the idea of maybe dates that you had with women previously. There's a relaxed slow pace because of the glow lamps budded. The word budded is effective because it creates an image of new life, just like flowers budding or blooming away. So that links, it's a metaphor for something blossoming, so that links back to his youthfulness and vibrancy and energy before war destroyed that. Lastly, the light blue trees. So obviously in stanza 1 there was the mention of the colour grey. Colour is important throughout this poem. So blue, and it's light blue, which gives us a sense of sort of, again, peacefulness and calm. So that contrasts with the dark and the grey of earlier. So there's a sense of warmth and happiness as he thinks back to his memories, and it's positive images of what his life once was. So it's very much focused on, you know, romantic dates with women. So there's alliteration in this stanza. So the next question is, how does the alliteration of the letter G, how is it used to different effect in this stanza? So last, in stanza 1, they talked about ghastly grey. So obviously that was like an appalling, shocking image. Here it talks about glow lamps, girls glanced, grew dim. So it's much more positive. So these are happy memories that he's had of his previous times of his youth, which is ironic because he's still a young man, but he's obviously described himself as old. So basically, the alliteration focuses on all these celebratory nights out that he had, or dates with young women. So it's all positive. The next question is, how do we know the soldier was an attractive man in the past? So the alliteration of girls glanced is obviously a glance is a very quick look, like you sort of try and do it discreetly. So that could imply that girls can't help but sort of glance at him or do a double take when they see him, which again suggests that he was a handsome, attractive man. And remember, at that time, a soldier in uniform was very much admired and revered because of the courage that they had and the bravery going out to war. So men in uniform or soldiers were popular before they left. The idea of the war hero. So he was certainly one of those. He was admired by women who clearly saw that he was attractive because of the stares that they gave him. The next question is, discuss the effectiveness of the expression before he threw away his knees. It's a very powerful, strong image, this. So the happiness of the start of the stanza when he's thinking back, this is the turning point of the poem. So this is obviously where he threw away his knees. So this is emphasised. The turning point or the contrast within this stanza is highlighted through the use of the dash, unusually at the beginning of the line, which creates a long pause. So that shows the transition between past and present. So we're back in the present day, and obviously that's referred to with the expression old times. So that tells us that he was describing his earlier life as he sees it. So we're soon plunged back into his current miserable, bleak existence. Threw away. So if we focus on that, so if you throw something away, like the image there, it's usually a piece of rubbish, something that doesn't mean anything to you, it's worthless, you don't even think twice about putting it in the bin. So again with this, threw away suggests that reckless behaviour, careless, as if he intentionally gave up his legs, for no real purpose or reason. So it's like he didn't really care or do much to protect them. There's also a sense that, like all the soldiers threw away, it sounds as if, just like the soldier here, all his comrades were the same. They were all reckless in enlisting, so that could be what this also implies, that they were practically asking for trouble just because they joined up. So they were deliberately disfigured or killed, and it was partly their fault. So the idea that it was careless and a bit naive of them to enlist and think it was a positive thing. There's also a sense that he's responsible for this. If you throw something away, it's your own choice. So there's an idea here that he obviously feels a sense of remorse and guilt, and he acknowledges the role that he played in enlisting because, if he hadn't done so, then he would still be able-bodied. So Owen is obviously implying here that the soldier himself realises that he's partly responsible for his injuries. So the next question is, how do we know that the soldier is no longer attractive to women? So the stanza says, now he will never feel again. So we've got the alliteration of now and never. So that obviously contrasts with his previous life. The word never is one of those, like, it shows the finality of it, that he is a harsh word. There's no chance of him ever having a romantic relationship again. So he's now going to be rejected by women and other people in society. So he realises that because of the condition that he's in, that he's never going to have what he had before in terms of women's presence or their company or a relationship. So his future, obviously, in terms of that, is bleak, and he realises that he's going to be lonely. Never feel, again, that could refer to him physically, because he's going to be, incapable of touching another woman because he's lost at least one arm. We don't know how many for sure, but it could suggest as well that his lack of hands, so he's never going to be able to be physically able to feel a woman's body again. And lastly, discuss the effect of the simile on the last line of this stanza. So it says, all of them touch him like some queer disease. So if we focus firstly on the word all, so there's not a suggestion that it's some women, it's all. It's a representation of all women, so it's a collective group. So, you know, that obviously also includes nurses, because it's nurses that are wheeling him around at the moment and taking care of him. But he says all of them touch him. So obviously the nurses must show their disdain or their dislike or disapproval of him in some respect. Maybe he sees their face sort of grimacing or something as he looks at them. So that's not really the way that we would expect him to be treated. Certainly not by nurses, but by all women, because obviously before he left, they admired him. He was handsome. They saw the uniform and were attracted because of that and the idea of a war hero. But now he's been rejected, you know, because of his disabilities. He's been rejected by women, which makes us pity him even more. The idea of him being treated like a disease, he is the disease. You know, he is all of them. He is the disease to be avoided. It's not like he is like a disease. He is the disease. So that's why, you know, just like coronavirus, you would avoid it like the plague. You've heard that expression. So that suggests that he knows that throughout his life now, he will be rejected by everybody around him. He's not going to get closeness either physically or emotionally again. So he's being treated inhumanely by everyone around him. So there's the idea of sickness imagery going on here. So he is the disease that must be avoided in case you catch something. And it also symbolises and reminds us that there's a, you know, society is diseased as well. So that's what Owen is suggesting. By treating our war veterans like that, you know, he's saying that there's a problem. And obviously the fact that there's a war suggests that society is diseased in some respect because of the way that we treat fellow man. And unfortunately the poor soldier is a symptom of that war. So finally, just to sum up, the second stanza, the first stanza was all bleak and miserable. Then we have a contrast at the start of this stanza where he talks about his previous life. We get a glimpse of how happy and carefree, youthful, energetic, handsome he was, you know, just like your average young guy. And then there's a sharp contrast in the middle after he throws away his knees, because we get the idea that his present life is certainly one where he's rejected, you know, lonely. He's going to be, you know, everything's bleak and unhappy. So there's a juxtaposition effectively going on here between past and present, and that can evoke nothing but sympathy in the reader, as we can see how vibrant his life once was compared to the emptiness that it now has. Alright, hope that's been helpful. Tomorrow we will be looking at stanza 3, so we're going to take each one in turn in depth, and next week we're going to be looking at, now you've got this really great knowledge of the poem, how do I apply it to a critical essay? That's what this is all building up towards. If you haven't done so, please like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like the Aim Higher Facebook page, because that's where all the resources are on the poem, all the questions if you'd like to do a little bit of revision at home to expand your knowledge, especially if you're studying it for an exam. If you're not on Facebook, there are the links to the Aim Higher page on the Google Classroom, so you can get access to the poem and the questions and work on the poem that I have uploaded as well. These are all done for free, but if you'd like to say thanks, if I've helped you with your revision, then please send £1 or 2 to that address on PayPal. And that's it, so I'll see you tomorrow for stanza 3. Have a fab day.